Tay Park stood in his apartment doorway and looked at the mess before him. Empty food containers covered the coffee table. Clothes lay scattered across the floor. The kitchen sink overflowed with dirty dishes from the past week. He sighed deeply and dropped his work bag by the door. Another long day at Hontech Industries had drained every bit of energy from his body. 12 hours of writing code and testing robot systems left, him wanting nothing more than a hot meal and a clean place to sleep. But his apartment looked like a disaster zone. He walked to the window and stared out at the glowing city below. Seoul's lights stretched as far as he could see. Millions of people lived in those buildings. Millions of people probably going home to families right now. Wives asking about their day. Children running to greet them. Home-cooked meals waiting on tables. Tay had none of that. He was 32 years old and completely alone. He pulled out his phone and opened the delivery app. His fingers hovered over the restaurant options. Fried chicken again? Noodles? He had eaten the same 5 meals rotating throughout each week for the past 2 years. Everything tasted bland now. They remembered something. 3 weeks ago, he had ordered the newest model domestic android from RoboHome Corporation. The deluxe model that could clean, cook, and manage an entire household. The delivery was scheduled for today. Tay checked his email quickly. There it was. Delivery confirmation for 6 p.m. He looked at his watch. It was 5:45 p.m. now. A small smile crossed his face. Finally, things would change. He would come home to a clean apartment. Fresh meals would be ready. He could focus on his work without worrying about the basic tasks of living. It was not the same as having real human company, but it was something. He started picking up some of the trash from his living room. The android would clean, yes, but he felt embarrassed about the extreme mess. As he worked, he imagined what model they would send. Probably the standard female design. RoboHome always used pleasant faces and calm voices for their home models. At 5:58 p.m., Tay washed his hands and waited by the door. Any moment now, the delivery team would arrive. They would set up the android, explain the basic functions, and leave. His new life would begin. Then the explosion happened. The entire building shook violently. Tay fell against the wall. Glass shattered somewhere. Car alarms started screaming in the streets below. For a moment, he thought it was an earthquake. South Korea got those sometimes, but the sound was wrong. It was not the rumbling of earth. It was the scream of something falling from the sky at incredible speed. Tay ran to his window. Nothing looked different in the street. Then he heard a terrible crashing sound from his own apartment. From his balcony, he rushed to the balcony door and stopped cold. A metal pod, maybe 3 meters long and 2 meters wide, had smashed through his balcony railing and embedded itself partly into his living room wall. The thing was smoking and covered in black burn marks. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface. Tay's engineering brain kicked into gear, even as fear flooded his body. This was not human technology. The metal was wrong. The design was wrong. Everything about it screamed impossible. The pod side panel suddenly hissed and slid open. Smoke poured out. Tay grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter, his hand shaking. He had no idea what to do with it, but holding something made him feel slightly less helpless. A figure stumbled out of the smoke. It was a woman. At least, it looked like a woman. But her hair was silver and seemed to glow with its own light. Her skin had a faint blue shimmer under the apartment lights. Her fingers were slightly longer than normal human fingers. And when she lifted her face, her eyes were violet. Pure violet with no white parts at all. She was beautiful in a way that made Tay's brain hurt. Like looking at something that should not exist, but did anyway. The woman collapsed onto his floor. Her clothing, A tight-fitting suit made of material that looked like liquid metal was torn in several places. Blue-silver liquid leaked from a wound on her side. Tay stood frozen. Every logical part of his mind screamed that this was not real. This could not be real. People did not just crash spaceships into apartments in Seoul. Aliens did not exist. This was some kind of dream brought on by stress and too much instant noodles. Then the woman's eyes opened. They focused on him with sharp intelligence. She said something in a language that sounded like music and wind chimes mixed together. When Tay did not respond, she winced in pain and reached into her belt. She pulled out a small device and pressed it against her throat. When she spoke again, the words came out in Korean. Heavily accented, strange-sounding Korean, but understandable. Please help. Ship destroyed. Pursuers coming. Tay's hand still held the kitchen knife. His voice came out as a whisper. What are you? The woman coughed. More of that blue-silver liquid came from her mouth. No time, explain. They followed me. They will come soon. Must hide. Must warn. Warn. Warn who? What are you talking about? Tay's voice rose higher. The woman tried to sit up and failed. She fell back with a gasp of pain. Your world, danger. Please, I know this frightening, but please help. I mean no harm. Tay looked at the pod embedded in his wall. He looked at the clearly alien woman bleeding on his floor. He looked at the kitchen knife in his hand, which suddenly seemed very stupid. His robot maid was not coming today. Something much more complicated had arrived instead. He dropped the knife and knelt beside the woman. His hands moved before his brain fully caught up with the decision. Years of working with machines and systems kicked in. This was a problem. Problems had solutions. Panic could come later. Where are you hurt? He asked. The woman's violet eyes filled with something like relief. She pointed to her side. Weapon strike. It's sealed partially, but needs treatment. My medical kit in pod. Silver case. Can you? Tay stood and approached the pod carefully. Inside, he could see a cockpit designed for one person. Strange displays showed symbols he could not read. Everything hummed with power that made his teeth itch. He found the silver case and pulled it out. It was surprisingly light. When he returned to the woman, she was trying to remove her suit to expose the wound. Tay helped her, trying not to think about how insane this entire situation was. What is your name? He asked. The woman looked at him. For a moment, something soft crossed her features. My name very difficult for human speaking. You may call me Hana. Is close enough. I am Tay, he said automatically. Tay, she repeated. Thank you, Tay. I am sorry about your wall. Despite everything. Tay almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he opened the medical kit and tried to figure out how to save the life of an alien woman in his living room. His quiet, lonely life had just ended forever. Tay's hands moved carefully over the medical kit's contents. Everything inside looked both familiar and completely wrong. There were items that resembled bandages, but they glowed softly. Small vials contained liquids and colors that did not exist in nature. A device that looked like a scanner hummed when he picked it up. Hana watched him through half-closed eyes. Her breathing was shallow. The blue-silver blood had stopped flowing as much, but the wound looked serious. The blue cylinder, she whispered. Apply directly to wound. Will seal tissue. Tay found the cylinder. When he pressed the top, a foam emerged that sparkled like starlight. He hesitated only a moment before applying it to her side. The foam spread across the wound and hardened into something like skin within seconds. Hannah gasped but nodded. Good, thank you. Now I will not die in your home. That's reassuring, Tay muttered. He sat back on his heels and really looked at her. You are really an alien. From space. This is really happening. Yes, I am really from space. This is really happening. Hannah tried to smile. It looked painful. I am sorry for dramatic entrance. Was not my plan. Tay laughed. It came out high and slightly hysterical. He was treating an alien in his living room. An alien who had crashed a space pod through his balcony. This was not a normal Tuesday evening, Dot. He took a deep breath and forced his mind into engineer mode. You said pursuers were coming. What did you mean? Hannah's expression turned serious. She pushed herself up to sitting position, wincing. I must tell you things. Things that will change your world. But first, can you help me move pod inside? Cannot leave visible from outside. That made sense. Tay looked at the pod. It was wedged in his wall, but not completely inside. Working together, with Hannah directing and Tay pushing, they managed to drag it fully into the apartment. Tay then hung sheets over his broken balcony door. It would not hide things perfectly, but it was better than nothing. When they finished, both sat on his couch. Hannah looked around his messy apartment with interest. You live alone, she observed. Yes, very alone. Usually boring alone. Not alien spaceship crash alone. Hannah laughed softly. Then she became serious again. Tay, I must tell you why I am here. My people are called the Kedron. We have empire spanning many star systems. For many years, we watch Earth. We study humans. My job is xenanthropologist. I study alien species. Your species. Tay processed this. You have been watching us? Like spying? Observing. Learning. Trying to decide if humans ready for contact. Hannah paused. I believe you are ready. But now something terrible happened. She explained in simple terms. Her ship had been orbiting Earth, conducting long-range studies. Then another species arrived. The Vrix. They were scavengers who traveled through space, looking for worlds to harvest. Resources, technology, sometimes populations. They followed quantum signatures that Hannah's ship produced. They attacked my ship, Hannah said quietly. I escaped in pod. But they know Earth is here now. They will return with more ships. Maybe weeks. Maybe sooner. Tay felt cold. Return to do what? To take what they want. Your world has much they desire. Water, metals, technology. They will not care about human life. Can you stop them? Can your people? Hannah shook her head. My empire is far. I sent message, but fleet will take months to arrive. The Vrix will come much sooner. Tay stood up and walked to his window. Below, people moved through streets like normal. They had no idea what was coming. What about our military? Our weapons? I have studied your capabilities. Impressive for your development level, but not enough against Vrix technology. They have weapons that could destroy cities from orbit. Shields that stop your missiles. You would fight bravely, but lose. The words hit Tay hard. He thought about his coworkers, his neighbors, his parents in Bizen, all of them going about their lives, unaware that something was coming to take everything. Why did you come here? He asked. To my apartment specifically? Hannah looked embarrassed. Not random. I have been monitoring certain humans. Scientists, engineers, leaders. You are robotics engineer at Hontech Industries. I have read your papers on adaptive AI systems. Your work shows unusual creativity. When my ship was hit, I thought perhaps you could help repair my quantum communicator. Need to send proper warning to my empire. Give better coordinates for fleet. Tay turned to look at her. You crashed your escape pod into my apartment because you thought I could fix alien technology? When you say it that way, sounds foolish. But yes, despite the situation, Tay felt something like pride. An alien from an advanced civilization thought his work was impressive enough to seek out. Then reality crashed back. Even if I could fix it, you said your people would take months to arrive. Yes, but if we can strengthen signal, can also send warning to Earth governments. Give them time to prepare. Maybe evacuate cities. Maybe hide resources. Something. Tay sat back down. His mind was already working on the problem. Show me the communicator. Hannah's eyes brightened. She stood carefully and moved to the pod. From inside, she pulled out a device about the size of a basketball. It was covered in strange patterns and had a crack running down one side. This is Quantum Entanglement Communicator. Uses paired particles to send information across vast distances instantly. But crash damaged crystal matrix. Need to repair or replace. Tay examined the device. His brain hurt looking at it. The technology was far beyond anything on Earth, but the basic principles made sense. It was still just communication. Still just sending and receiving information. I cannot replace parts I do not have, he said slowly. But maybe I can improvise. Bridge the damaged sections with something. You think possible? Tay looked up at her. I have no idea. But what choice do we have? Over the next hour, Hannah explained how the communicator worked in terms Tay could understand. She was good at simplifying complex ideas. Tay realized she had probably spent years learning how to communicate with less advanced species. You are very patient, he said at one point. Explaining all this to a primitive human. Hannah frowned. You are not primitive. Humans are young species, yes. But young not mean primitive. You have achieved much with little time and few resources. Many species in galaxy older than yours, but achieved less. You should be proud. The words touched something in Tay. He thought about his earlier loneliness, his feeling of being stuck in meaningless routine. Now an alien was telling him that humanity itself was impressive. Why do you study us? He asked. Really? Hannah was quiet for a moment. Because you interest me. Most species I study are stable, unchanging. They follow same patterns for thousands of years. Humans are different. You change constantly. Always inventing, creating, fighting, loving, dreaming. It is chaotic but beautiful. I volunteered for Earth assignment because I wanted to understand this. She looked away. Also because I was lonely in my own world. Everyone there has purpose, has place in empire. I felt like observer of my own life. When I study humans, I feel more alive. Tay understood that feeling completely. Two lonely people from different worlds, meeting because of a disaster. We should start working, he said quietly. Before your Vrix friends arrive. Hannah nodded. She pulled more tools from the pod. Tay grabbed his own engineering kit from his bedroom dot as they began the seemingly impossible task of repairing. Alien technology with human tools, Tay realized something. He had wanted a robot Maid to make his life simpler. Instead, he got an alien visitor who made his life infinitely more complicated. But for the first time in years, he did not feel alone. And somehow, that made everything worth it. Tay called his boss the next morning. For the first time in 3 years, he lied about being sick. His voice was steady, even though an alien was sitting on his couch eating instant noodles with great interest. Fascinating texture, Hannah said, slurping the noodles. Very efficient food. Not nutritious, but satisfying. Welcome to my normal diet, Tay replied, hanging up the phone. He looked at the quantum communicator spread across his coffee table. They had worked until 3 a.m. The previous night before exhaustion forced them to stop. The device was more damaged than Hannah initially thought. The quantum crystal matrix that allowed instant communication across light years was cracked in 7 places. Hannah explained that normally her people would simply replace the entire unit. But they did not have that option. "We need to create bridges," Tay said, examining the crystal under a magnifying glass. "Connect the broken pieces so energy can flow through again." "But with what material?" "This crystal has grown over decades in zero-gravity chambers. Cannot replicate on Earth." Tay thought about this. He could not replicate alien materials, true. But maybe he did not need to. Maybe he could work around the problem instead of solving it directly. What if we do not repair the crystal itself? What if we create external pathways? Route the quantum energy around the damaged sections? Hannah stared at him. That should not work. Energy would lose coherence. Should not work is different from will not work. Let me try something. Over the next several days, they fell into a strange routine. Tay would work on the communicator while Hannah recovered her strength. She told him stories about her empire, about the dozens of species that worked together, about worlds he could barely imagine. In return, Tay told her about Earth, about human history, wars, art, music. Hannah was fascinated by human creativity. "Your species makes art for no practical reason," she said one evening. "You write songs about emotions. You paint pictures that serve no function." "Why?" Tay shrugged. "Because we can. Because it makes us feel something. Is that strange? Most species stop creating art once they achieve space travel. They focus only on efficiency and survival. But humans still dream, still make beautiful things. This is rare." As they talked, Tay noticed something. Hannah's initial formal speech was becoming more relaxed. She was learning Korean faster than seemed possible, adapting to his speaking patterns. And he was learning to read her expressions, to understand when she was worried or amused despite her alien features. On the 4th day, Tay had a breakthrough. Using superconducting wire from his Han Tech lab, which he sneaked out in his backpack, he created a network of external pathways around the damaged crystal. It was crude compared to the original design, but when Hannah activated the device, the crystals glowed. "It is working," she breathed. "How did you know this would work?" "I did not," Tay admitted. "But you said Kedron engineers would replace the crystal. Sometimes the direct solution is not the best solution. Sometimes you have to be creative." Hannah looked at him with something like wonder. "This is what I have been studying. This exact thing. Humans do not follow standard paths. You make new paths when old ones fail." Before Tay could respond, someone knocked on his door. Both of them froze. The communicator's glow was still visible. The escape pod, even covered with sheets, was obviously not normal furniture. Tay's apartment looked like a secret laboratory. "Tay? Are you home?" I heard strange noises. The voice belonged to Kyung, his neighbor. She was a retired professor who lived next door. Friendly but very curious. Hannah quickly powered down the communicator and moved behind the pod. Tay threw a blanket over the device and went to the door. He opened it only slightly. Kyung stood there with a concerned expression. She was in her 60s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Tay, I have been worried. You have not left your apartment in days. And I heard strange sounds. Also, there was that terrible crash earlier this week. I am fine. Just working on a personal project. I took some time off work." Kyung tried to peer around him. "What kind of project makes explosions and blue lights at midnight?" "Electronics project. For robots. You know I am an engineer." Kyung did not look convinced. "Also, I saw something strange on your balcony. Something metal." Tay's mind raced. "Old equipment. I am disassembling it. Can I come in and see? I love watching engineers work." "Not right now." The apartment is very messy. Maybe another time. Kyung studied his face. Then she smiled slightly. Tae, I have been your neighbor for 5 years. You are a terrible liar. If you are in trouble, you can tell me. If you are doing something dangerous, please be careful. And if you have a girlfriend, you are hiding because you are embarrassed about your messy apartment. Just introduce me. She walked away before Tae could respond. When he closed the door, Hana emerged from behind the pod. That was close. Do you think she is suspicious? Very suspicious. Kyung notices everything. We need to be more careful. They worked more quietly after that, but the communicator was nearly complete. Tae had managed to restore about 70% of its function. Not perfect, but enough to send messages across the galaxy. One night, as they worked, Tae asked the question that had been bothering him. Hana, when your people arrive in a few months, what will happen to Earth? Hana set down her tools. That depends. Normally, first contact is careful process. Years of preparation. We reveal ourselves slowly, help species adjust to galactic reality. But Vrix have changed everything. Your world will know about aliens very soon, one way or other. Will your people protect us? Yes. Kedron Empire does not allow species like Vrix to destroy developing worlds. We will drive them away. But Earth will never be same. You will join galactic community, whether ready or not. Tae thought about this. Maybe we are more ready than you think. What do you mean? You keep saying humans are young and developing. But we survived for thousands of years without knowing about your empire. We built civilizations, created technology, explored our own world. We did all that alone. Maybe being young is not same as being weak. Hana was quiet. Then she smiled. You sound like defender of humanity. Someone has to be. You aliens keep underestimating us. I do not underestimate humans, Hana said softly. I think you are remarkable. Why do you think I chose Earth to study? Why do you think I aimed my escape pod at your apartment specifically? Because I believe in human potential. I believe you can surprise Galaxy. They looked at each other across the coffee table covered in tools and alien technology. In that moment, they were not alien and human. They were two people trying to save a world. The communicator is ready, Tae said finally. We should send your message. Hana nodded. She powered up the device. It hummed and glowed brighter than before. She spoke into it in her own language, sending detailed coordinates and warnings to the Kedron fleet. When she finished, they waited. Minutes passed. Then the communicator chimed. A response had arrived. Hannah's face fell as she read it. Fleet is coming. But they are 3 months away. And Vrix scouts were detected entering solar system. They will arrive at Earth in 2 weeks. Tae felt his stomach drop. 2 weeks? That is not enough time? No, it is not. They sat in silence. Tae looked around his small apartment. This place had been his whole world. Now he knew how small Earth really was. How vulnerable. What do we do? He asked. Hannah looked at him. In her violet eyes, he saw something shift. A decision being made. We do something my people would say is wrong. We warn Earth governments. We give humans time to prepare. But you said first contact should be careful, slow. First contact already happened when Vrix followed me here. Now Earth needs every advantage. Even if my empire disapproves later, I will not let your world face this unprepared. Tae felt a surge of gratitude and fear. How do we convince governments we are telling truth? Hannah smiled. It was not a gentle smile. We show them what humans can do when properly motivated. We show them you repaired quantum communicator with primitive tools. We show them that young species can surprise old ones. We show them hope. Tay stood up. Then we need to make some calls. And I think I need to introduce you to some people. Starting with neighbor Kyung? Definitely starting with Kyung. She is going to find out anyway. Better to control the situation. As Tay reached for his phone, Hana touched his arm. Thank you, Tay, for helping me. For believing. For being exactly the human I hoped existed. Tay smiled. Thank you for crashing into my apartment instead of someone less understanding. Outside, Seoul continued its normal rhythm. But inside a small apartment, two people from different worlds were about to change everything. Kyung did not faint when she saw Hana. Instead, she walked into Tae's apartment, looked at the alien woman with glowing silver hair, looked at the damaged escape pod covered in sheets, and sat down on the couch. Well, she said calmly, this explains the noises. Tae stood by the door, unsure what to do. Professor Kyung, I can explain. You have an alien in your apartment. An actual extraterrestrial being. I assume she is the reason for that crash last week. Kyung addressed this question to Hana directly. Hana nodded. Yes, my name is Hana. I am from Kedron Empire. I apologize for disturbing your neighbor. Fascinating. Your Korean is excellent for someone not from Earth. Kyung pulled out her phone. I need to take notes. This is the most important moment in human history. Wait. Tae moved quickly and gently took the phone. We cannot tell everyone yet. The situation is complicated. How complicated? Tae and Hana explained everything. The Vrix, the coming attack. The Kedron fleet that was months away. Kyung listened without interrupting. Her expression grew more serious with each detail. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, we need more people. Smart people. People who can help. I agree, Tae said. I was thinking of my colleagues at Hontech. Jiwon works in weapon systems. Daeun used to be military. Good start. I also know people. Scientists, government contacts. But we need proof to show them. Something undeniable. Hana stood and powered up the quantum communicator. It glowed with otherworldly light, displaying symbols that shifted and changed. This device uses quantum entanglement to communicate instantly across galaxy. It should be impossible by Earth's current physics understanding. Is this proof enough? Kyung leaned forward, her eyes wide. May I examine it? For the next hour, Kyung asked technical questions that made Tae's head hurt. Hana answered each one patiently. Tae realized that Kyung was not just a retired professor. She was brilliant, someone who could actually understand what Hana was explaining. You were a physicist? Hana asked at one point. Quantum mechanics specialist, Kyung confirmed. I published papers on theoretical quantum communication 30 years ago. Everyone said it was impossible. Now I am looking at working model. Not just looking, Hana said. We need your help. 2 weeks until Vrix arrive. We must prepare Earth. What can we possibly do in 2 weeks? Tae spoke up. We cannot match their technology. But maybe we do not need to. Hana told me the Vrix are scavengers. They calculate profit versus risk. What if we make Earth look too risky to attack? Hana tilted her head. Explain. Deception. Psychological warfare. Humans are good at this. We make them think Earth is more defended than it really is. We make them think attacking us will cost more than any resources they could gain. Kyung nodded slowly. A bluff. Like in poker. We show strength we do not actually have. Exactly. But to do this, we need help. We need to convince the right people. Over the next 3 days, Tae carefully contacted his colleagues. First was Jiwon, a weapons engineer who had worked with Tae for 5 years. She arrived at the apartment looking annoyed. Tae, this better be important. I am in the middle of a major project. Then she saw Hana. Then she saw the escape pod. Then she fainted. When Ji-won woke up, she was lying on the couch with Kyung, checking her pulse. The first words she said were, "This is really happening?" "Yes," Tae confirmed. Okay. I am okay." Ji-won sat up slowly. "Aliens are real. We are about to be attacked. We need to defend Earth. I can work with this." Tae smiled. This was why he had chosen Ji-won. She adapted fast. Next was Dae-yeon, who had served in the military before becoming a defense contractor. He did not faint. Instead, he immediately started asking tactical questions. How many ships? What weapons? What are their standard attack patterns? Hana answered each question, showing him data from her ship's archives. Dae-yeon listened and took notes. "We are outmatched in every way," he said finally, "but not hopeless. I have seen smaller forces defeat larger ones through strategy." The group began meeting every night in Tae's apartment. More people were carefully added. A diplomat Kyung knew. A computer expert Ji-won recommended. A journalist who could help control information when the time came. They called themselves the First Contact Committee. Though Dae-yeon wanted to call it the Defense Force, the plan developed over long discussions and many arguments. They would use Hana's knowledge of Rick's psychology to create the perfect deception. Make Earth appear to be protected by Kedron forces. Use modified broadcast signals to mimic Kedron military frequencies. Create fake defense platforms that looked impressive on sensors, but were actually just satellites with special modifications. "It is crazy plan," Hana said after hearing the full proposal. "Fricks are not stupid. They will eventually see through deception." "Eventually is fine," Tae replied. "We only need them to hesitate for a few months, until your fleet arrives. And if they do not hesitate?" Tae looked around at the people gathered in his small apartment. Human faces from different backgrounds, all united by one goal. "Then we fight anyway, with whatever we have. That is what humans do." Hana studied him. "You have changed, Tae. Week ago, you were a lonely engineer wanting quiet life. Now you lead resistance against alien invasion. Week ago, I thought I was alone in universe. Now I know I am part of something bigger." Changes your perspective. The hardest part was convincing the government. The First Contact Committee had prepared everything carefully: evidence, recordings, the quantum communicator itself. Kyung used her contacts to arrange a meeting with high-level officials. The meeting took place in a secure government building in Seoul. Tae, Hana, Kyung, and Dae-yeon attended. They faced a room full of skeptical officials and military officers. "This is elaborate hoax," one general said immediately. "Special effects and actors." Hana stood. She removed a small device from her belt and activated it. Suddenly, she was floating 1/2 meter off the ground, held up by anti-gravity technology that made several officials gasp. "Is this special effect?" she asked calmly. The room erupted in confusion and excitement. Questions flew, demands for proof. Accusations and wonder mixed together. Finally, the senior official present, Minister Soo-yoon, called for order. She looked at Hana directly. "Assuming you are telling truth, why should we believe your plan will work?" Hana gestured to Tae. "Because he already showed me what humans can do. He repaired quantum communicator with primitive tools. He thought of strategies my people would not consider. Your species is young, yes, but you have creativity we have lost. You adapt. You surprise. These are your weapons." Minister Soo-yoon turned to her military advisors. They whispered among themselves. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, she spoke. "We will provide limited support, but this must be coordinated internationally. We cannot act alone." "We understand," Tae said. We have contacts ready in other countries. Scientists, military personnel, people who can help. Over the next week, the plan expanded rapidly. Other nations were brought in carefully. Not everyone believed at first, but Hana's technology convinced even the most skeptical. A secret international coalition formed with one purpose: make Earth look too dangerous for the Vrix to attack. Resources poured in. Satellites were modified. Broadcast arrays were built. Weapons that could not actually harm Vrix ships were positioned in ways that looked threatening on sensors. Most importantly, signals mimicking Kedron military protocols were prepared to broadcast the moment Vrix arrived. Tay barely slept. His small apartment had become the center of a global operation. Hana worked alongside him, teaching, advising, encouraging. One night, 3 days before the Vrix were expected, they stood on his repaired balcony. The city lights stretched below them. Somewhere up there, hostile aliens were approaching. But down here, millions of humans were going about their lives, protected by a plan they did not even know existed. "Do you think we can fool them?" Tay asked quietly. "I do not know," Hana admitted. "Vrix are cautious, but they are also greedy. They want to believe Earth is easy target. We will use that against them." "And if the plan fails?" Hana looked at him. "Then we tried. And trying is more than most species do when faced with impossible odds. You humans never accept defeat until you have no choice. Sometimes not even then. This is why I believe in you." Tay smiled. "You are starting to sound human. Maybe you are teaching me." They stood together in comfortable silence. An alien and a human who had become friends, who had become partners in the most important mission either had ever faced. Tomorrow, they would put their plan in motion. Tomorrow, they would learn if human creativity and determination could match advanced alien technology. But tonight, they had hope. And sometimes, hope was the most powerful weapon of all. The Vrix arrived exactly when Hana predicted. 3 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were dark and angular, designed for efficiency rather than beauty. Each ship was a kilometer long and bristled with scanning equipment in the secret command center set up beneath Seoul. Tay watched the monitors with dozens of others. Hana stood beside him, her face tense. Around them, military personnel from 6 nations monitored screens and prepared systems. "They are scanning," Hana reported, reading data from her own equipment, looking for defenses, technology level, resources. "This is standard Vrix procedure." "Then let us give them something to see," Dayan said from his station. He nodded to the communications officer. "Activate the broadcast arrays." Across Earth, specially modified satellites began transmitting signals. They used Kedron military frequencies that Hana had provided. The signals claimed Earth was a protected research world under Kedron oversight. They warned that any aggressive action would be met with immediate response from Kedron Defense Forces. It was completely fake. But the signals were authentic Kedron code. The Vrix would not be able to tell the difference, not immediately. On the monitors, they watched the Vrix ships slow their advance. They had received the warnings. "They are hesitating," Kyung observed from her analysis station. "The bluff is working." "For now," Hana cautioned. "They will send probes to verify. We must be ready for next stage." Stage 2 began an hour later. The Vrix launched dozens of scanning drones toward Earth. Small, fast devices meant to confirm what their sensors were telling them. The drones would search for Kedron technology, for military installations, for any sign that Earth was actually protected. This was the dangerous part. The drones were sophisticated. If they got close enough, they would detect that Earth's defenses were mostly improvised and far less advanced than Kedron technology. "Release the countermeasures," Minister Soo-yoon ordered. Around the globe, missiles launched, not toward the drones, but into specific orbital positions. They carried payloads designed by Earth's best engineers, working from Hana's technical specifications. When the missiles detonated, they released clouds of particles that created false sensor readings. To Vrick's scanners, it would appear that Earth had sophisticated defense grids, energy shields, weapon platforms. All fake, but convincing if you did not look too closely. Several drones were destroyed by actual missiles. Not because they posed a real threat, but to show that Earth could detect and eliminate them. Humans might not have energy weapons, but conventional missiles could still blow up small drones. More importantly, a few drones were allowed through the defenses intentionally. These drones found carefully prepared evidence. Modified satellites with casings that mimicked Kedron technology. Broadcast stations transmitting the right frequencies. Military bases arranged in patterns that matched Kedron defensive doctrine. Tay watched the drone telemetry on his screen. His heart pounded. Would it work? Would the Vricks believe that Earth was more than it appeared? Hours passed. The Vrick ships maintained their distance, analyzing data from their drones. In the command center, people whispered and waited. Ji-Wan kept checking her systems. Diane reviewed contingency plans. Kaun monitored the Vricks' communication patterns, searching for clues about their decision. Hana stood perfectly still, reading data streams that only she could interpret. Finally, she spoke. They are communicating with each other, debating. Some want to attack anyway. Others are cautious. They are arguing about profit margins. Can you tell which side is winning? Tay asked. Not yet, but we need something more. Something to push them toward withdrawal. Tay thought quickly. They had planned for this possibility. Execute Phase 3. The intrusion. A team of Earth's best hackers, working from Hana's instructions, launched a coordinated cyber attack. They did not actually penetrate Vrick's systems. That was impossible with current human technology. But they made it look like they did. Fake Kedron code, provided by Hana, was inserted into the data streams the Vricks were broadcasting between ships. The code contained a simple message. This world was under active Kedron monitoring, and the Kedron fleet had been notified of the Vricks' presence. The message was designed to look like it had been hidden in the Vricks' own communications. Like Kedron forces had been watching all along. On the monitors, the Vricks ship's behavior changed immediately. Their scanning stopped. Their formation shifted into a defensive pattern. They believe someone hacked them, Hana said with amazement in her voice. They think Kedron is actually here, hiding, watching. Will they attack now? Minister Suyun asked tensely. No. Vricks do not take unnecessary risks. If Kedron is present, attack would be unprofitable. They would lose ships and gain nothing. They will withdraw and report to their superiors. The room held its breath. Minutes stretched like years. Then, slowly, the 3 Vrick ships began moving away from Earth. They maintained defensive formations, as if expecting attack at any moment. Within an hour, they had retreated to the edge of the solar system. Then, they vanished into faster-than-light travel, heading back the way they came. The command center erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. Some cried with relief. Earth had survived first contact with a hostile alien species. Tay found himself shaking. They had done it. The plan had actually worked. Humanity had bluffed its way out of an alien invasion. Hana was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since he had met her. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Tay corrected. All of us together. But even as they celebrated, Hana's expression turned serious. This is only temporary. Vricks will analyze what happened. They will send analysts who are smarter, more careful. Eventually, they will realize Earth is not actually protected. We bought time, but not safety. How much time? Daeyeon asked. Maybe 2 months. Maybe 3. Depends how paranoid they are. And your fleet arrives in 3 months, Tay calculated. We just need to maintain the deception a little longer. Minister Suyun stepped forward. We will continue to improve our defenses, make them more convincing. But Hana is right. We bought time, not victory. The real question is what happens when the Kedron fleet arrives. All eyes turned to Hana. She took a deep breath. That is decision for my people's leaders. But I will recommend that Earth be offered alliance rather than protectorate status. You have proven yourselves today. You defended your world with cleverness and courage. These are qualities Kedron Empire respects. The following months were tense but hopeful. Earth maintained its elaborate deception while preparing for the Kedron arrival. The world had changed overnight. Governments that had hidden the truth now began carefully revealing it to their populations. Aliens were real. First contact had happened, and humanity had survived through its own ingenuity. Tay's life transformed completely. He became one of Earth's primary liaisons with Hana. His small apartment, where everything had started, became a symbol. They kept the escape pod there as a reminder of that first chaotic night. 3 months after the Vrik's withdrawal, the Kedron fleet arrived. 12 massive ships entered Earth's orbit, each one dwarfing the largest human vessels. The lead ship broadcast greetings in dozens of languages. Admiral Mayan, commander of the fleet, met with Earth's representatives on a neutral station hastily constructed for the occasion. Tay and Hana attended. Tay felt small in the presence of such powerful beings, but Hana squeezed his hand reassuringly. Admiral Mayan was tall and imposing, with the same silver hair as Hana, but darker violet eyes. He listened carefully as Hana presented her report, explaining everything that had happened. The Vrik's attack, the desperate plan, how humans had defended themselves. When she finished, the Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at the human delegation. I read the reports with skepticism. They seemed exaggerated. But now I see they were accurate. You truly convinced the Vrik's to withdraw, using only deception and improvisation? We had help, Tay said, gesturing to Hana. She taught us what we needed to know. She taught you nothing you did not already possess, the Admiral replied. Creativity, courage, the refusal to accept defeat. These are not things that can be taught. They must exist already. He stood, and everyone in the room stood with him. The Kedron Empire has first contact protocols developed over thousands of years. We introduce ourselves slowly. We guide new species carefully. But circumstances have changed everything. You are no longer a species we must guide. You are a species we wish to know as partners. Minister Suyun stepped forward. What exactly are you offering? Probationary alliance. You will have access to some of our technology. We will help defend you from threats like the Vrik's. In return, you will contribute your unique perspectives and abilities to our empire. In 20 years, if both sides are satisfied, full alliance status can be granted. The room buzzed with whispered conversations. Tay watched the human leaders discuss this historic moment. Finally, Minister Suyun spoke for all of them. We accept. Earth joins the Kedron Empire as allies. The formal ceremonies took weeks. Treaties were signed. Technology exchanges began. Earth's governments established formal diplomatic relations with dozens of alien species. Humanity's isolation had ended. Through it all, Tay worked alongside Hana. She had requested to remain on Earth permanently as the first Kedron ambassador. Her superiors had agreed, noting that she understood humans better than anyone. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, they returned to Tay's apartment. It looked different now. Clean, organized, with proper furniture. But the escape pod still sat in the corner, a reminder of where everything began. They stood on the balcony, looking up at the stars. Up there, Kedron ships orbited peacefully. Humanity was no longer alone. Do you remember what you wanted? Hannah asked softly. When I crashed here? Tay laughed. A robot maid. I wanted someone to clean my apartment and cook my meals. I wanted simple solutions to simple problems. Are you disappointed you did not get that? He looked at her, at this alien who had become his closest friend. I got something much better. I got a friend from the stars. I got to help save my world. I got to be part of something bigger than myself. Hannah smiled. I got something too. I was studying humans from distance, trying to understand you. Now I am part of your world. I have friends, purpose, connection. Everything I was searching for. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lights of Sol below and the lights of ships above. Two beings from different worlds who had found each other by accident and changed everything. Tay thought about loneliness, about his empty apartment and empty life before Hannah arrived. All of that seemed like a different lifetime now. Thank you, he said quietly, for crashing into my life. Hannah laughed. Thank you for not calling the police. Somewhere above them, humanity's first delegation was preparing to visit the Kedron homeworld. Earth scientists were learning technology that seemed like magic. Children were growing up knowing aliens were real, and humans were part of something vast and wonderful. And it all started because a lonely engineer wanted a robot maid, and an alien visitor arrived with plans of her own. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities neither could have imagined. But whatever came next, they would face it together. Human and alien, friend and friend. Two people who proved that sometimes the best outcomes come from the most unexpected beginnings. The stars shined above, and Earth shined below, and everything was exactly as it should be.